You're living alone for 10 years.
I felt so afraid of going downstairs. I would jump into my burqa at one point. I started wearing the burqa to work.
Lahore is the worst city to be a woman in the world.
Acha, you live alone, and they have this thing in their mind. The independent women are only there working for one thing and nothing else. So
Women sit on a bike with both legs on one side. And this is so dangerous, you can actually break your nose.
the first, I think, 4 or 5 years I lived in Karachi, and then I lived in Islamabad, and then 3 years I lived in Peshawar. Everybody in Islamabad, they would figure out that I was from Karachi, and then it was just another level of not just creepiness, but also like, we're gonna use you as an ATM machine. Like, they would tell me insane amount of charges for a menial job.
If somebody said to me, "Oh, you're a woman living alone," I would lose my sleep. This is the boundary where I'd be like, this is already a red flag. Don't finish that sentence, please. Like, this is so creepy.
When I was taking the bikes, I mean, I still do, but so people used to feel strange. What if your body is touching a strange man's body? I was like, no. I mean, I'm not sitting that close to the bike rider. I have my personal space, and he respects it. And just for safety, I would keep my bag between us.
How is it to live alone in Pakistan as a woman? You've lived in Karachi, you've lived in Islamabad, you've lived in Peshawar. How are the men like in each of these cities? Like, men who you work with, men who you socialize with, men who you potentially date, men who you are friends with. What's the difference? So I'm really glad that we made it. Would you like to start off by introducing yourself?
My name is Yaveen. I am from Karachi. I'm a journalist. I've studied human rights and journalism. That's where my journey started. And it's been 10 years of me living alone by myself in Pakistan, living independently. And I've just collected uh, barrage or whatever dam, 3 dams worth of experience and stories
Torrents of
on this.
stories.
Yes,
Oh my
I am a
god.
feminist. So I had to do a lot. I mean, you see all these. My whole Instagram is about breaking the chains and generational
You're
trauma and all
living
of this. So
alone for 10
we.
years. You're living alone for 10 years in
Yes,
Pakistan. That is
yes, I'm living alone for 10 years
phenomenal.
in Pakistan.
We have to buy a medal
Yeah.
for you.
So for the first, I think, 4 or 5 years I lived in Karachi, and then I lived in Islamabad, and
You
then
lived
3 years
alone
I
in
lived in
Karachi.
Peshawar. Yes, I lived alone in
Karachi,
Karachi.
I always say Karachi is the Gotham City of Asia. How the hell can you live alone in Karachi? Like, you're very
So
courageous.
yeah. So, so when I was studying journalism and human rights, that was in the States, I always wanted to come back to Pakistan and work here. And everybody would tell me, "Why are you going back? Who does that?"
ये भी एक topic है. This is also a
But I
topic.
really, I really wanted to do. I really wanted to do this, and I always said, all of these stories that I want to tell, and I can speak in my own language. I can relate to the people. I cannot relate to those in the US. Back then, it was not as a happening as it is these days, right? These days, it's every day you see US and Pakistan in the news. But back then, it was relatively calmer. There was no
You don't
Trump,
see
there was
Pakistan in the
no
news
MAGA,
anymore.
none of that.
I disagree with
No,
that.
no, I meant US. I meant US.
Yeah, okay.
Because people were telling me, don't go back to Pakistan. I was like, everything is happening over here. I am so far away. And I keep talking about Pakistan from US, and I keep saying, um, ऐसे होना चाहिए, वैसे होना चाहिए, like things should be like this, people should do this, we should do this, we need this, like the diaspora. It was very frustrating. So I always wanted
So
to come
this is
back.
very
That's what brought me
interesting,
back.
actually. This is very interesting. I'm super happy that you opened with this very juicy detail that you live alone. You've lived alone in Pakistan for 10 years. This is, like, by the way, very, very brave of you. How did it happen? And your family lives in the same city.
So how that's that small detail also, and it's it's kind of a big one as well. But my parents were here in Karachi at that time. But my dad, he had cancer. Got diagnosed with cancer. So when I came back, they left within like 2 months of that. My parents, both my parents, they went to US for my dad's treatment. And then my dad passed away over there. They had gone on their green card. Their green card also suddenly came. And that's how I ended up staying here because obviously I didn't have the visa. I was on the student visa. I had come back. It was
Oh,
done and over for me. So when my parents left, then my dad passed away over there within like 3 months of going to the US. This is 2015. My mom ended up staying in the US with my brother. My sister lives in Canada. So all of my immediate family is, I mean, I don't have any immediate family here. I have all my mamu and, uncles and
uncles. Okay,
aunts,
I'm
all of
sorry for
that.
your loss. Yeah.
But so the apartment that I am sitting in right now, this is where I used to live 5 years ago by myself. This is my dad's place. So this is where kind of I grew up. So that's one of the things that made it kind of easier. One thing that made easier for me in Pakistan was that I knew all of my neighbors from before, so that was a big support.
Right. Okay, makes sense. So it just happened that you started living alone.
Yeah, I mean, they were kind of expecting that my parents' green card would come at some point, but because my dad had cancer and I was just super confused. You're fresh out of college, and I was very idealistic and passionate. I'm very passionate still. I'm a little less idealistic, but like 2% less.
What are you passionate about?
Human rights, women's rights, things that most people are too busy with their life to care about. And I wanted to write and I wanted to report. I wanted to keep working in the news.
Right.
I wanted to work at BBC, which I
Which you
did.
did.
So,
How is it to live alone in Pakistan as a woman in Karachi?
yeah, in Karachi, it's different in every city because I've lived alone in Karachi. I've lived alone in Islamabad. I lived alone in Peshawar, which was another word. But to be honest, in Karachi, I think back then, we were kind of getting uh, loud and noisy on social media. We had just started doing that. So a lot of it, I feel like Karachi is a lot better from where I started from. Like, because we were like making videos of every harasser on the street, and we were like, there was girls at dhabas.
Mm.
There was
The
all these
beginning, the beginning of the
yeah,
woke era. I used to
the
work in
big
Dawn at that time.
right, yeah, there you go. There you go. So I was at Express Tribune and then Sama, and then I went to Dawn. It was the
Yeah, and
beginning
then
of
I
the
went to
woke
Sama,
era.
and then I went to
Exactly,
Express
there you
Tribune
go.
because we all
Oh,
work in the same places, right?
you
There's
just
only
left.
so many options in
Exactly. So
Karachi.
we
We
just do the
rotate.
musical chairs, every time. Yeah, that's what is. We keep shuffling among each other only. So so living alone, I mean, it wasn't that challenging, to be honest, because for me, I was living in the home that I grew up since my childhood, and I live in apartments. So they're relatively safer, especially if you're an old resident, right? If you're a new person living in a new building, then those challenges would be very different. But I already knew, there's no water. If there's a water shortage, I know I have to call Rauf, I have to call uh, Hamid Plumber, and I have to call Fulana. I know who the PTCL guy is if my internet is not working. I
This
know the
is
electrician
this is
from my
such a big
childhood.
this is such a
I
big
would keep losing.
consideration.
I
This is
know.
a really big consideration in Pakistan, right? Like if you're living alone, you need to know the mother of your plumber. You need to know the mother of your
Yes.
electrician because who is this weirdo coming into my house to fix the electricity board?
How can you
Who
trust
who's the
him?
plumber? Who's the electrician? Like who are their parents? I have to know everything. This is so funny. There is also this culture in Pakistan. Like if you have a new driver, you always get them to give their identity cards and be like, I want to get a photocopy of your ID
Yes.
card. Where are you registered? Where do you live?
Yep. 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 All those ID cards, all of that, and also like aside from the fact that I didn't know if I could trust them, because they were coming and in my house and I was alone. I was also very concerned: are they going to do the job correctly?
Yeah, because I
Because
think a lot
so
of
a lot
them
of times they gaslight.
They gaslight,
They
especially if
gaslight
you're
you.
a
They're like,
woman.
no, no, this is not an issue. This is not an issue. You do this and this, and it'll be fine.
I'm very curious about one thing though. When you were living alone, did you declare it to people that you live alone? Because what happened in my case is that I always lived with my parents, but they used to travel, right? Once in a while. And even then I wasn't fully alone.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody would be there. But
Hmm.
I would always keep a front that, oh, like, I'm alone only for 1 hour. Somebody's gonna come back now. Like a safety concern. I always used to have this impression that I'm not alone because I used to feel like if you declare it to the world that you are a woman living alone, it's just not just a security thing, but you become a target, right? People get this feeling there's no one behind you.
I would say so. They already knew that my parents had gone,
Who are they? Like
right?
neighbors?
In this isn't they. No, no, not obviously. Neighbors knew neighbors, so they were helping us with everything, and my parents were meeting everybody before they left. But by they, I meant the helpers, the electrician, the handy persons,
Okay.
all of them.
The support
So,
stuff.
because they would also come and they're like, when are auntie and uncle
No,
coming
and
back?
the troubleshooting stuff.
When I lived in Islamabad and Peshawar, I was unable to. I actually never thought that I could just say that, uh, I don't know, pretend call my uncle. I never did that. This is an idea that just came to me from you. But in all of my 10 years, I am not able to hide those details of my life very well. I don't know. I don't have a
Really?
poker
Okay.
face. I give it away. But I do have a resting bitch face though. That one I know I do.
No, that's a good thing. That's a
So
good thing to have. I think.
Mm.
How was it to live alone in Islamabad, and how does it compare to Karachi as a woman?
so yeah, so I've lived alone in Karachi and Islamabad. So at that time, I was working at Independent Urdu. When I moved to Islamabad, I actually wrote about this experience because when I moved to Islamabad, everybody used to say, "Oh, it's a very much safer city for women." But what I was experiencing was a completely different nightmare. I felt like I was being stared, harassed from like left, right, front, center, all directions. So what happened? And I dissected it. I tried to, because I was getting, when I was living alone, people were like dropping in their numbers in my apartment, and I was being followed. This
What?
was like an E11, an
I
F10,
know
F10.
E11. I know E11. Everybody from Karachi is going and living in an Bilal was living in E11.
Yes. A lot of them, because a lot of us, because of the apartment culture, but also like it was a little bit more affordable, and we were also kind of working in the same area, so it was easier for us, all of us, to travel. But like I was getting harassed so much, and I felt like it was such a dark city. Like there are no street lights. There was no concept of street lights. And when you go from Karachi, and I mean, I know we have a lot of load shedding, but it's not on the roads. We have load shedding at home.
Karachi is the
So
city of
the streets
lights.
are well
Yeah,
lit.
Karachi is the
It
city of
is. It
lights.
is
Yeah,
well
yeah, yeah.
lit.
Obviously.
It is well lit. I felt so afraid of going downstairs and, just going to some general store, or if I needed something. I would jump into my burqa at one point. I started wearing the burqa to work because the building the building that I lived in, oh my, it was so
I have seen
horrible.
this building. I
I
know
did
which
not.
building this is because I've been to people's house.
No, it was not that
Okay.
fancy building.
Okay. But I know, you know what I
It
mean?
was that building was some. Yeah, yeah, I know what you mean. Definitely. So actually, I felt, I used to say that Karachi is a lot more safer because one thing, the work culture helped change some things over there in Karachi with the girls and dhapas. Like, you would go out there, a lot more dhapas here. There were not so many dhapas in Islamabad. Women were not anywhere on those dhabas. In those dhabas, there's no like big bazaars and, like Kulistane Johor, you go out and
I feel very safe in Islamabad. Not because I'm a woman or anything else, but because when you're going from Karachi, you feel like Islamabad is slow. Like slow, you know what I mean? And I'm like, oh,
slow is different from safe. Okay, I felt safe from coming, I still do, from the ATM. But as a woman, when it comes for harassment, it comes to being stared at.
Lahore is the worst city to be a woman in the world. In the world.
So when I started talking about that, women actually told me Lahore is worse, but you are right, Islamabad is bad, but Lahore is worse.
Lahore is
And then Peshawar to put up
unbearable. Lahore is unbearable.
Peshawar was another thing.
I was also in Peshawar.
I was getting
I've been,
stared at a lot in Islamabad.
but that's interesting.
And then, not only that, then, when you talk to the handyman, the same, the plumber, the mechanic, because I'm doing it all by myself, right? So the plumber, mechanic, electrician, I don't know, random, the building management.
Wow.
It was just a nightmare. And also, socializing in Islamabad is a lot more tough because everybody has this very their own closed circle.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to make your way in because if you don't already know people in Islamabad, I don't know. I mean,
I
I
know,
felt it
honestly,
and I
in
know other people. It's
yeah,
very cold. It's not welcoming.
it's not welcoming.
People don't stand in a U. They stand in a circle.
The thing is that in Islamabad, I know a lot of people for some reason. So, and I know people in different areas of life, like in different fields. I know journalists. I know people who work in development. I know people who work in corporates. But in Islamabad, it's also a bit of a class thing. I've realized.
Yes, exactly. That's where I was going at.
Yeah.
Because there's no public transport in Islamabad, so it's not easy to get from one place to another place. So I-8 is another world, F7 is another world, E11 would be another world. There's not a lot of intermingling. And then, from Pindi to Islamabad, it's that is why are you even talking about that? That's crazy.
You're from Pindi, you're not welcome.
But yeah, right? Like, and then I mean, I just felt like, why don't they have public transport in Islam? But it's so elitist. That's the basic thing. So if I want to go in E11 from one place to another, there is no there is no rickshaw that I can catch. There are no buses. There's nothing. So it is a very anti-poor city. It's not diverse as much either. Karachi is like, so even now it's getting better in terms of diversity because you see the same kind of places that were in defense or Pulkius taraf, on the other side of the pole it was a whole fancy world. But now like, it's coming because people from Gulshan, Gulsane Johor, North Nazambad, we were all going over there.
The defense bubble has burst, I think, to a large extent in Karachi. Reason being,
Even right now, though, people who are in the defense, they don't want to come to North Nazambad.
I mean, I think, okay,
I pull my friends'
to be
legs a lot
completely
of
honest,
times.
like to be completely honest, my parents live in defense. I don't want to go outside of defense if I can have a coffee like 5 minutes from my house. This is also like for me, this is a
Yeah, but your friends are coming from North Nazabad.
none
na?
of my friends are coming
Every
from
time.
North Nazabad every time. None of them. They just give me crap for it.
That
They
for not coming over there.
no, they just give me crap because they live. Okay, so we always try to meet midway, which is like outside of defense, but like near Tipu Sultan. I think that's
Which is like SMCH. There you go.
Tipu Sultan, right? But the thing is,
Tipu
they
Sultan or
also-
SMCHS.
come
yeah.
on, like they also want to eat at Xander's. Right? If you want to eat at Xander's, you're gonna have to come to Tipu Sultan. I can't take Xander's to North Nazimabad, right? And the second point
I
is,
mean, you pick a place in Anders.
I'm happy to pick a place at Sindhi Muslim. But my point is always that it's about the commute. Karachi is so exhausting. Like in Karachi, if you leave the house,
Then you won't be able to meet your friends.
first of all, I have no friends who live in North Nazabad. Okay? My friends,
That's so sad. They're the coolest people. You need to have friends from there.
my friends live in Gulshan. Okay, Gulshan, Hassan Square, Clifton,
So yeah, the center point for you then would be
right? And it
that would
has
be SMCHS is still closer to
it
them.
has nothing. It has
Yeah.
nothing to do with the fact that I live in defense because I grew up in North Nazimabad. Completely honest, right? And my relatives live scattered around the city. So from Clifton to Defense, all the way to Gulshan, Gulistani, Johor. Like I have family in every part of Karachi. Like I'm a Karachiite, right? Like we're
Yeah,
we're veteran Karachiites.
Yeah.
So if you are
Yeah, North Karachi,
not
Ladli,
Karachi,
सारे होते
so
हैं. It's not just
if you
that.
lived in
Yeah.
Karachi since the 60s, 50s, your family, defense did not exist at this time. Like people who had a lot of money used to buy properties at Amir Khusro Road, Tariq Road, right? Like Bahadrabad.
That was the
That was the
defense
defense
back
of
then.
Karachi. So these people are actually not people who I know are
Yes.
not smitten by defense. They're not smitten with the idea or of living in defense in Clifton. Also because defense is pretty bad. Like defense is not safe. Like you can get into a car crash on the middle of the road in defense. It's not safe. Defense is not safe to be a woman either. I have taken Ubers between defense to Kolachi. I don't feel safe in an Uber as a woman. Like defense is very shady at night.
Yeah.
So I
So,
mean,
but anyway, compared to Islamabad, I would say that that way,
so Islamabad, I
it's
said I felt so safe.
Karachi felt better.
Really? Oh
There
my
was a lot.
god.
I mean, Karachi felt a lot more lively.
Karachi is definitely more lively, but I thought it's Islamabad is a better city to be a woman. I felt much more safe actually.
Oh, and another thing that I faced was that I was actually running into everybody in Islamabad. They would figure out the people were that I came across happened to be from Punjab, and they were able to figure out that I was from Karachi. And then it was just another level of not just creepiness, but also like we're gonna use you as an ATM machine. Like they would tell me insane amount of charges for a menial job. But then I don't know, maybe that's Islamabad or that was just them. But somebody who's come from Karachi and she's used to paying 500 for something and they'd be like 2,500 and I'm just like, what?
What?
Yeah, for fixing small things. So it is an expensive city, and but the level of creepiness that I faced was actually a lot worse.
Actually, this is completely something that I can believe.
The first question, oh, आप कराची से हैं, you're from Karachi. आपकी बोलने के अंदाज से पता चल गया, like we figured it out how you're speaking, and then they were just, अच्छा, you live alone, and people who live alone, especially women in E11, they have this thing in their mind. They're not used that. I mean, independent women are only there working for one
Oh my
thing
god, that is
and
so
nothing
creepy.
else.
Like if
So
somebody said this to me,
that, yeah.
if somebody said to me, "Oh, you're a woman living alone," I would lose my sleep. This is the boundary where I'd be like, this is already a red flag. Don't finish that sentence, please. Like this is so creepy.
So yeah, you're living I mean, I it was a whole red. There were too many red flags. The whole place was red, or it still is. But now I know. Now I have these people that I know. Like I know Kesser for the handyman. I know I know Temur for my mechanic. So now I've developed that life over there. So it's safer now for me. And like, yeah, I mean, aside from this dad living alone, I figured out so many things, like if I have to fix a light bulb, and if I have to do some electrician job, or if I have to, like, just yesterday, the other day, I was telling my cousin that I installed the gas cylinder by myself, because I don't use the gas connection, like doing all these things. And even my mechanic, he taught me certain things. So if my car stops working, I am able to this, like, I pick up the bonnet and I'm figuring it out and the car starts working.
Dude, that is so cool. Like
Like, all is sorted.
you
I love it. I love it.
you're so independent in Pakistan for a woman. This is really hard. Like these
Yeah.
small things are really hard. Um,
They are very hard. They were very hard in the beginning.
that's
The one
amazing.
thing that used to happen in Karachi was when my car would get stuck, and obviously because I'm living by myself, so I'm driving by myself also. I'm alone and I'm stuck on the road. People would come to help, and they would actually help. But in Islamabad, when I would have car troubles, and I'm like, standing by my car, and my the car's bonnet is up, people wouldn't come to help. They would just come and look and
Yeah.
leave.
So I lived in Karachi for 25 years of my life, right? I've met a lot of people in my life who always tell me, "Oh, you're so open-minded. You're this, you speak English perfectly, yada yada, all of that," right? I always tell people that the city that made me is Karachi. Every other city in the world I've lived in 5-6 years, since 5-6 years. So what really made me was Karachi. And I think that Karachi is one of the most
Hmm.
progressive cities in the world. It can really shape you.
Yeah.
You can meet some of the most progressive, intellectual, intelligent, educated people in your life. And it's a really big city in that we don't police who's coming into the city, right? In Karachi, you can have a meal
Yes.
for 5,000 Pakistani rupees and stay hungry. And you can have a meal for 50 rupees and you can be completely satisfied with the meal that you had. You
Fulfilled.
can be
Yeah.
completely fulfilled. And this
Yeah.
is
I
what I
mean,
love about it.
and at any time of the day also,
At any
if
time
you
of the
need
day.
something.
And I think Karachi is inherently more unsafe for men and women both. But as a woman, you're completely right that you don't feel any eyes on you. So I could be dressed up to go to a
Yeah.
party in
As
Karachi
compared to other
as
places.
compared to
Yeah.
Islamabad or as compared to Lahore. I mean, Lahore is hell on earth to be a woman. There's no worse city in the world. Like,
I've been told.
I have a lot of feelings about Lahore.
I just don't want to do that.
But I mean, in Karachi, you don't feel the eyes on you, right? People are a bit more open. People are a bit more
Yeah.
progressive. They look at a woman, they look at her, okay, she's very well dressed, okay, we can see her arms, okay, she's well, and then they're gonna get on with their day. They're not gonna start.
Listen, I just remember, okay, taking a bike, the ride hailing
Yeah, we'll come to
thing that
that.
I
We'll
did
come to
back then
that.
when it started. Oh, because this is related to that right now. Because I took a bike ride with this Molvi from
So,
IA Chandigarh to Gulistan
okay.
Johar. Yeah, my biker guy was a Molvi and he was very confused what is happening.
Okay, so I want to know about it because this is where I
Okay.
learned about you on a blog.
Mm.
So Jabeen is really, really gutsy, as you can all see. She, a few years ago, okay, just to give people some context, a few years ago, there was this culture that came in Karachi and other cities of Pakistan where ride hailing services became increasingly popular. I think 12 years ago, 15 years ago, maybe. And ever since Uber and then Careem, which operates in some parts of the world like Morocco, Dubai, these ride hailing services became increasingly popular. And then they were expensive actually. So with inflation and with increasing fuel prices, what's the cheaper alternative? That they started giving you an option to take a bike, which is inherently cheaper. But how many women are going to take a bike? I mean, sitting behind a man. And also, like in Pakistan, there's a culture which is ridiculous. And I wish that we don't have it in the next few years and we can get rid of it, is that women sit on a bike with both legs on one side. Not with both legs on.
Side, yeah.
Yeah, and they don't sit
Either
astride.
side of the bike.
Yeah, they don't sit with legs on either
The way
side
you're
of the
supposed to be
bike.
sitting on a bike.
And this is so dangerous. If you sit on both legs on one side, you can actually break your nose.
Your legs also,
But I don't want to
everything.
hurt my face. I don't want to hurt my face basically. You can die.
That's true.
You can die basically. It's really risky because a
Kids would die.
bec-
That's true.
because a bike is not designed that you sit like with both legs on one side, right? And women are supposed to do this because the patriarchy is so ingrained. It's ingrained that if a woman is sitting with her legs spread apart on either sides, it's actually considered by very shameless, which is strange
Hmm.
because this is a vehicle which is designed that people sit like that. So it guarantees safety when you sit like that. So a lot of
Yeah,
women
so you're
don't
not
take.
sitting properly when you're sitting properly.
Exactly. So it's improper to sit on a bike the way it's designed. So Jabeen took a bike, and I'm not sure what motivated her, but she wrote a blog about it, and this was very cool. Why did you do this?
I don't exactly remember where the idea came from in my mind, but I wanted to do this because I don't think they had any gender discrimination going on. I mean, they didn't say that this is only for men, obviously, because it wasn't and it isn't, right? So that was just something that in our heads that only women
It's
can
the
take.
culture.
Sorry, only men
It's
can
just the
call
culture,
these,
yeah.
right? So only men. So then I was just sitting, and I guess I probably think that I just wanted to do this impossible thing. I like doing those impossible things, especially those things that people tell me, oh, women can't do. And I'm like,
But I'm
why
gonna
did you
do
just
it.
say that? Now I have to do this, even if it's going to hurt me. I'm going to do it. So I think I just started taking that, and it was a lot of there was a lot of buzz around this also. So I really and I love being on a bike. I love it. I love
I
bike
know.
riding.
Like,
So I think I took it for that, and then I randomly probably mentioned it in the newsroom, and
you
then
were
my editor
working
was like, "Why don't you just write about
you
it?"
were working in Dawn at the time.
Non at the time, I was in images,
Images.
yes. So she was like, "Why don't you write about it?" And I was like, "Yeah,
So
okay,
how did it start? So you called a bike, and then
yeah."
what did this person look like? How was their expression? How what was their facial expression like when they saw you that you're a woman?
Uh I mean, so I think if I recall correctly, I don't remember the specific details because I called several bikes over time. I don't exactly remember the first one, but people used to think they would just say, "Sir, kahan hai?" And then there would be a voice of a woman. So there was this 30 seconds of awkward exchange and just trying to figure out, did I hear right? What is happening? And this guy is confused, and I am also new to this, so I don't know how to explain it to him that it is actually me, a woman, uh, who ordered the bike and who is going to be riding it. They would ask, how many people are there? And like, it's just me.
It's a
I want to
bike.
go
What do you mean
to
by how many
Tipu
people?
Sultan. I, I don't know. I don't know. Like they would be just confused. And they'd be like, Acha, aap jayenge. You'll go. You're the one who's riding it. I'm like, yes, I am the passenger. I haven't ordered it for somebody else. There is no man. It is only me alone. It's not like, it's not like a couple or whatever. It's not, I don't have a brother here or whatever. There's no man involved in this exchange. So then that happened. I remember that. And then there was this one, most of them were actually they were I could sense, obviously I was also nervous, but I had my how dare you face on. So but they tried to mask it that they were uncomfortable, I think. And then I did take it at night as well. And one of the bikers I remember told me that, you should get a car when you're traveling at this hour of the day instead of a bike, because then people look. And then I was not sitting side saddled either, so that was also confusing for them. um and then once I got a bike and I sat, and the guy was like, आप बैठ गई हैं? मैंने कहा, मैं तो बहुत देर से बैठी हुई हूँ. Like, it's been a while. I'm sitting behind. You can start the ride. And he just looked around and he's like, oh, oh. Like he couldn't even tell I was sitting, because obviously I just hopped onto it. And my weight was like, it didn't move the bike, and I don't know what happens when you sit side saddled. I haven't done that.
It's so unsafe to sit like that.
So I actually, so for this article, I spoke to the bikers, and I asked them, like, why don't you tell the women in your family to sit like this? Isn't it more safe? Isn't it safer? And then I spoke to the women who also sit on the bike, and they're like, we are the first ones to fall off whenever there's a bike accident.
And a lot of times they are carrying a baby on their shoulders. This is so unsafe.
They hurt the babies get hurt. The ones that I spoke to, they told me, one of the guys told me that his mom has had his her legs got broken twice. It is so unsafe. Like, why would you sit like that? And then I also spoke to people who, whenever this article came out, there were people who were telling me that this is a more dominant culture in urban cities. Like when you go travel further away from Karachi or Lahore or Islamabad, whatever, in the villages or in the smaller towns, women don't sit like the side
They sit
saddle. So
astride.
it's a very culture and
Ah,
proper way of doing things to sit like this.
aristocratic in the cities.
Acha, you're right, exactly. And then this other thing happened where, somebody was translating this article, and then the editor had written, na shaista, gair shaista andaz se बैठी थी. And I went to the editor and I was like, what do you mean? how can you translate this as ghair shaista or na shaista, whatever the word is? I was like, what do you mean? What you think I wasn't? I'm not shaista enough? What do you mean? What is this? Like, let me tell you, I am very shaista. Okay, what is this
Yeah, this is the
nonsense?
problem.
I am
Sometimes
very shaista, and I am going to
I
sit
hate
like this
this.
only.
I mean, I always
And I just told him कि आप लिखें कि आप मैं ठीक से बैठी हूँ, बाइक पे ठीक से बैठी हूँ, जैसे बैठना
no.
चाहिए, और क्या लिखेंगे आप?
So basically, so
अच्छी।
basically, what's really funny about it is that I always tell this to my friends who don't speak Urdu or Hindi, right? Who are German or Europeans or whatever. I always tell them that the language is so charged. It's very
Sexist.
sexist. It's very charged with all these connotations. I mean, in Urdu, we don't have a word for rape. We say zyati,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
a lot of news publications, ever since women started pushing back, have started actually writing rape in Urdu. Because I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
know what is the word for rape in Urdu actually. Like, this is zyati. So a lot of times
Yeah.
people say zyati, and I'm just like, zyati literally means, okay, I need some friends from BBC Urdu now to translate it for me. What does zyati really mean?
No, but Zyati is just
Zyati is like
something unfair. Something unfair
yeah,
happened to you,
like
right? So ये मेरे
somebody,
साथ ज़्यादती हुई।
it's like somebody took something from me. It's like something has been taken away from me, and this was very unfair to me. So I mean, this is such a horrible connotation of the word rape, zyati, because it makes the woman look
Yeah.
like a victim. And the same thing with na shaista. Like, that's exactly the same mindset, right? The same line of thought, and the language is so charged. And for decades and decades, we've been writing like that, and there's not enough people who question that these words have to go.
Mm-hmm.
I'm super happy that you
Yeah.
pushed
So
back.
we've adopted rape. I've noticed that we've adopted rape in Urdu language now, even though it reads like rap. So that's something that when you're writing about rap music, you are using rape, ye, pe, rape. But still, like, I mean, what else? You have to call rape what rape is.
But that's the thing, right? It's a lot worse. It's a lot deeper. It's a violent sexual crime. Zyati is like we're fighting over a piece of candy.
Yes.
Two kids fighting
Yep,
over
yep.
Smarties, like, you took my candy. And
So yeah. So that way, that Shaista and Na Shaista problem occurred. So, all of this chatter was going around about how, this woman is sitting on the bike, and then that article got published, and I was getting, extremely good comments and extremely bad ones. Somebody had related me to a porn star, and the other side of it was somebody commented on the article that he has two daughters and he's really happy that a woman is doing that. But yeah, the flip side, I was related to a porn star. But all of this chatter also got into my head. And then, like this na shaista and ghair shaista, whatever problem also arose. So I was going through stuff at home, because obviously nobody at my home knew that I'm doing this. I'm taking bike and I'm sitting that's this way, not this way. I'm sitting like the way I'm supposed to
with
be
legs
sitting.
on either sides.
So the internalized chatter and shame and
Internalized
criticism, this
misogyny.
it stays. So not just not misogyny in my head, I was saying. So I was having this back and forth. What am I doing? And people are talking about me, and this is like, am I a terrible person? And all of that was going on. So I got a little afraid when a colleague of mine, I asked him to, because we lived in the same area. So I asked him, can I go with him that day? And he's like, yeah, of course, hop on. So I got so nervous that I actually started to sit the shysta way. And he's like, what are you doing? He's like, no, don't do that. Sit properly. The way you're supposed to be sitting on a bike. What are you doing? And then I was like, oh, that actually helped.
That is such a good story because I know who this person is. I would love to, like, I know
Yeah.
this is a friend of
He,
mine.
he's a
He's
sweetheart.
a sweetheart. He's an absolute sweetheart.
Yeah.
Like, person with the
He's a nice
purest
guy.
heart I've ever met.
So,
And I feel like this is such good positive reinforcement what you needed at this time after a story like that.
That actually that was reassuring, highly reassuring. So after that, I never even dared to
I
sit
have
side
sat
saddle.
with him
Like
on a
that
bike.
moment.
So I have sat with him on a bike because I don't know a lot of people
And then
with
I went.
bikes.
I sat on the bike. I'm so sorry. I'm cutting you off. But in Islamabad, we would often take bike rides together, and I would sit the way I'm supposed to be sitting on a
No,
bike.
I
It was
think
a
I
lot of
have
fun.
sat with him on a bike. I'm sure I have sat with him on a bike. And I already said I'm not gonna sit like that. Like haya ke chakkar mein मेरा मुंह बर्बाद नहीं करूंगी मैं. Like I'm not gonna lose my face just for honor, just for this invisible audience, you know.
Yeah. And you know what? They actually tell you that it's a lot more easier for them to stabilize while they're riding the bike,
Absolutely,
you
a
know,
bike by design.
because the weight is distributed properly, evenly. You're not supposed to be sitting like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. And I remember sitting and I remember giving this disclaimer like I was 24, right? And I wanted to like make it a point. I'm gonna sit on a bike and I'm not gonna sit with like legs on both sides. I'm gonna sit like with leg and he's like, chill.
it's like, ma'am, been there, done that. Okay.
Maybe you sat with him before me, I think. I'm not sure. But I have sat with him.
Who knows? I don't know.
And I literally just sat with him, I think, because I don't have a lot of friends with bikes. And a lot more people just don't want to take the responsibility of a woman sitting behind them, right? There's also a thing. Are you such a good bike rider that you can actually handle somebody's weight behind you? And he's very good, and I know that. So I was like, I just need a bike ride, you know? Like people go from
Yeah.
abroad, like, I want to get a rickshaw ride, I want to get a bike ride. So it was like that.
Yes. So when I was taking the bikes, I mean, I still do, but so people used to feel strange. You know, what if your body is touching a strange man's body? And there was also this class thing. Obviously, you don't wanna.
Oh.
I don't know, because they're supposed to be, or we're supposed to be higher. I don't know, something. But so I was like, no, I mean, I'm not sitting that close to the bike rider. I have my personal space and he respects it. And just for
Did you
safety, I would
hold them
keep
on the
my bag
shoulder?
between us. No, I held the stand on
Super
the back
smart.
for balance. Yeah. No touching. That's something that no. I mean, it's also, you respect the bikers' personal
I
space as
know.
well, right? It's not just me. It's their
No,
personal space also. I
absolutely.
don't want to
I
be in
feel like
it.
what we often underestimate is the fact that men also have personal space. Just because they're men, I'm not gonna go breathe down their neck, right? It's like getting into a really packed elevator. You know,
Yep.
I'm gonna like if an elevator opens in front of me, I'm not gonna just get in because I'm a woman and because I'm petite and I'm small, whatever,
Yeah.
right? I'm like, no, I could be the size of an ant, but I'm not gonna get in because like there's already a lot of people and they also have their personal space. And I feel like not a
Yeah.
lot of men recognize that women also want to give you give you your personal space, right?
Mhm.
It's just,
Like you also have one, like, you have a
I
personal
mean, okay, yeah,
space.
men take a
It's
lot
not
of
just
space in
us.
the universe already, but personal space is something that deserves. They can take it.
Yeah.
And not enough of them actually have this
सही बात है.
mindset that women actually think about it. Interesting.
Mm. We are thinking about ours. So then when I took a bike with the Maulvi Saab. That was an interesting exchange. We talked about so many things, and it was not. I was afraid initially because we were. I mean, I felt like, what if there is a backlash or something?
Backlash of
But
what kind?
he was a professional. Yeah, I mean, because religiously,
Mm.
because I wasn't wearing a dupatta. I was just afraid. I don't know. I didn't know this person is. I mean, you read about these things, right? And I am somebody who's vocal, so I was also talking, and then I was like, maybe I need to like stay quiet while I'm taking this bike ride. But he had questions. Why are you taking a bike? Don't you think it's unsafe and all of that?
यार तुम गाड़ी
Then
चलाओ
I
मतलब
just
तुम बाइक
answered
चलाओ.
those questions. So by the end of it, we got so comfortable with each other that he was like, "Oh, can I use your washroom?" And I was like, "No, you can't."
What? That is so
That
creepy.
I might be. I mean, yeah. I felt like he came from a place of innocence and curiosity, that this is happening, and she is working in an office, and she is a journalist, and you know
Yeah, to be honest,
like, what is
yeah, to
happening.
be honest,
I, I
I
I feel
agree.
like that. I don't know what was going on in his head, but he was on a service. My live location was on. He knew all of these things, that I have taken all the safety measures. We talked about these things. Some people are waiting for me. Where are you dropping me off? But he actually really did want to go to the loo, I think, at the end of the 1 hour ride that it was.
No, I think it's a great thing that you did, because I think
But
genuinely
yeah.
not enough women in Pakistan do that. And when men see that women are able to do this, it also opens their minds. You know,
And also, that negative connotation of Aurat March, that was really at a height in those days. And here he is speaking to somebody who goes to Aurat March. Like, I am an Aurat March wali. Oh,
I used to get that a lot. Oh, you're one of those Aurat March women. And I'm like, I am,
yeah.
and you should be too.
So then, so then we were speaking, and I feel like, just speaking with him and just having that exchange, I felt that things were he was very confused and shocked in the beginning. It looked like that. And by the end of it, he got so comfortable that he was able to ask me, can I please use the washroom? And then I was like, no, there is a washroom downstairs, in the apartment building. I guided him, and there was it.
Nice. No, I it's
it
it's
was it was
nice.
nice for me also. It was nice for me also, that because I we also carry some biases, towards religious people, and the exchange that I had with him, that also helped me in a way.
Yeah. Do you still take a Kareem bike? Why? Why did you stop?
I mean, there was no particular reason. I think I started living closer to work, and I lived in Peshawar for 3 years. So in Peshawar, I never dared to do that. Um, but in Islamabad, I don't know. I mean, I guess I've been living closer to work. Probably that's why. No other reason as such to not go on a bike.
Peshawar is also one of hell of a place to be a woman.
And living alone at that, and then not be Pashto speaking. It was awful.
How was it like to be a woman in Peshawar living alone?
It was very difficult, very very much so, because and you can't make a social life there. It's very difficult to do that, because if you're not Pashto speaking, then you're automatically just counted as an outsider. And yes, it's true that they're very hospitable, but they're hospitable to people who are your mehman kya kahenge, guests. If you are a guest, right? Somebody who's a guest does not end up living there for 3 years, right? I mean, if you're a guest, you're a guest for 3 days, and you come and go. So hospitality is there, but after that, the hospitality stops. And also, just living alone, then I couldn't find the people I could trust to fix things. Right. So I was getting creepy people coming in and fixing things, or trying to help me out, and they were just creepy. So I had to ask my male friends to take the lead on that. I used to wear the chadar, the whole thing. So I mean, it's very difficult to survive there without male support, unfortunately.
Wow.
Hey, that's not that people are not that open minded, um like that.
Right.
uh and then just even the women themselves. So all the like-minded women I was able to find, there were like two or three, and they had family, that's such busy lives, they weren't able to meet as much. And then the other like-minded women, they had curfews. So by the time I would get free from work, that would be like 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. That would be the time that they had to be at home. They won't be able to go out. There's not there are not a lot of places to go out uh, at the same time. But even when you do have a restaurant where you can go, women would have curfews, and they have to be home before Maghrib. So you can't make a social life with women that who think like you, who are progressive. Um,
Yeah.
and Men you already can't socialize. The respectful men that I felt I could speak to, they were married, so they had their family life obviously going on, so they weren't able to meet me either. There was a very at the first 1.5 year, I remember I was just exploring. I was just going here and there and this place and that place, this mazar, that maqbara, this old house, this bazaar, this and that. So the first 1.5 year I did not know. I mean, I didn't feel alone, and I made a couple of really good friends, male friends. So they took me everywhere. They handled all of my problems that I was coming across living alone. And then the latter 1.5 year that I was there, that's where I started to feel very lonely, because there was I had only two friends, and when those two friends had gone back to their villages or they were busy, I had no one, no
Yeah.
support system as
You
such.
know, this
So
something you said that really stuck with
yeah,
me is that in Peshawar, women had to be back home before sunset. Maghrib is the prayer, so a lot of people symbolize Maghrib and sunset as sunset, so women have to be back before sundown. And we call it the curfew culture,
curfew,
in
yes.
Pakistan and a lot of other societies where it seems like there's a cutoff, and this is the time that women should come back
Yeah.
home. And I have a very I actually find the curfew culture very problematic on its own, not because just it's just restrictive for women, but also fundamentally the deeper consequence of that is that it gives people this impression that if you're a holy and if you're a good woman of sound character, then you're not going to be seen outside after this time. So what happens is this is a huge disservice to women who are seen outside after that time because that makes them targets.
Yes.
So if you see a woman
Yes.
outside at midnight, at 11 p.m., at 10 p.m., it's already too late. It's already past her curfew time. She should have been home by now. What is she doing outside? She's a target. Let's harass her, you know? And that's the problem. And I feel like, mm,
And I mean, the same parents wouldn't control their boys. Who are you protecting your daughters from? The
exactly,
sons you are raising from your own
exactly,
house?
absolutely. I feel like there has to be a manual on what men should be allowed to do or not. I always say this every single time I hear an incident of a woman harassed on the street or of a man who rapes a woman, I always say it's the men who should be put in the lockup. It's the men who should be living under a curfew.
Yeah.
Because if there were no men, women had nothing to worry about in public spaces. So it's really bizarre to me that, I mean, it's not something in our biology that we can't sit outside at a dhaba or we can't sit outside after 10 p.m.
Yeah. So like, I'm
It's,
used to do that in Karachi. I'm used to doing that in Islamabad, albeit with some problems. But in Peshawar,
yeah,
going out alone, it was just another kind of, you start self surveilling. Yeah, and just the stairs are so bad.
in Peshawar, the
Even when I'm
stairs
I'm in a
are
I'm in a chadar.
disgusting.
I'm in a chadar. I'm not wearing makeup. I'm chadar. One of my
Yeah.
colleagues was with me one time, and he's like, "Why is everybody looking at you?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And then he's like, "You're not even dressed up. You don't look good. Why is everybody staring
What
at
a
you?"
what an idiot. Who says that? I would have punched him so hard.
So
How
he was
the
just
hell did
pulling
he
my
say that?
leg. He was, he thought
You don't
I
even
was
look
like, "This has
good.
nothing to do." And he's like, at one point, he's like, "Okay, why are people staring at me?"
You know, you're totally right
I was
about
like, I don't
Karachi.
know, man. I
In
don't know.
that
Why are people staring at us
Karachi
at
late
this
night
point?
scene is very open, right? If you go to a dhaba late night, you will see plenty of women outside, right? In Islamabad, I completely get what you're saying. While it's a bit safer and your mobile phone's not likely to be snatched, I was at dhabas in Islamabad at 11 p.m. I was the only woman,
Yeah.
and it was funny because the men I
It's
was
kind of
with,
still like it's
I
like
mean,
that
this is
still.
2 years
Yeah.
ago. I lived there for an extended period.
Yeah, it's still like
So
that.
I
Yeah.
honestly, the men I was hanging out with were like, everybody's looking at you. I'm like, yeah, I'm from another planet. It's called being a woman. What can I do? You know?
So this right, just recently, I went with a friend for tea, and then I was like, whoa, there was like a sea of men in Islamabad. You know, there's a sea of men. The waves, I could feel the gaze just as I was about to go. At this, what this happened at F10, and then he's like, okay, you pick where do you want to sit. Are you sure you want to sit on this side or that side? Um, and then I picked a place, and then suddenly I was like, oh no, this is too visible. Like I need my back towards these people. So then he's like, yeah, that's completely fine. So we flipped our sides. So then he was facing the bed and I was facing only him.
Okay, I have two more things to ask.
The tiny struggles that exhaust
It
us.
is very
Okay, go ahead.
exhausting. I have two more things and then we can wrap up. Okay, you've
Acha,
lived
okay.
in, this is really interesting. You've lived in Karachi, lived in Islamabad, okay? Um, you've lived in Peshawar. How are the men like in each of these cities? Like men who you work with, men who you socialize with, men who you potentially date, men who you are friends with. What's the difference?
Okay. Men who I date are all the same, or who I have dated.
What do you mean by all the same?
Wo chahe, I mean, they have the same kind. So they did the same kind of. That's not their problem. I think that's a me problem. I'm not looking for the healed person. Because whether it's somebody who's from Oxford, whether it's somebody who's from what's that university, Occam, it's somewhere in Hazara. I have a diverse background of people that I have tried to form a relationship with. It all boils down to somebody who is a commitment for or is not able to commit for some reason, one reason or another. So that's more of a me problem, I feel. So dating wise, I would say it's been the same. And I only look for respectful people. So I obviously in the beginning I'm able to see through, but it doesn't work out because of these issues only. It doesn't matter whether they speak English fluently or not, or how much exposure they've had, where they've traveled, where they haven't traveled. It doesn't, if they're from the same ethnicity. So it is, I've talked to somebody who's Pashto speaking, Urdu speaking, Punjabi
But
speaking.
don't you think the mindset is a bit different based on where they come from?
No, because I wouldn't get attracted to somebody who's no, it doesn't, because I wouldn't get attracted to somebody who wouldn't have the same mindset as me and who wouldn't know what kind of a person I am. I would get attracted to people who have progressive ideas.
How often do you meet people from conservative backgrounds with progressive ideas, with from smaller cities? I know this is a huge stereotype that I'm talking about. It's possible to meet someone super progressive from a very, very small city and from a very
Yeah, yeah,
conservative
I have.
background. But how often and how likely is it that you actually meet someone like that?
Oh, I have to go down the memory lane, but it's not that not an often for it hasn't been. I've been with somebody who's from a small town in Punjab or Sindh and KP, of
And
course.
what are their
But over
perceptions?
time, they've gathered experience and exposure, so they've changed a lot over time. So
Right.
by the time I met them, they were different.
Okay.
This is for dating. So for work, Karachi was a mix. In Karachi, I had in a newsroom. I was, somebody was trying to harass me, and I called him out on it. And then I don't know what he said to shift in charge. The shift in charge actually started yelling at me, and the shift in charge was like, okay, yeah. So they were actually, I don't know, they were talking about porn, and they're like, oh, you're such a feminist. Why don't you give your input? And I'm like, I don't want to be. I know what they were doing. I know
What?
what they were discussing some porn. Yeah. So yeah, in the newsroom, these guys were discussing some kind of a porn clip or something. I don't know, and I'm not their friend. I don't know what's happening. I don't want to be involved in that conversation. I know what kind of a person this is. They know who I am. So they were like, "Oh, you're such a feminist. Why don't you give your
I
input?" And I'm like,
hate
I
it
don't
when men
want
do
to
that.
comment on this.
You're such a feminist.
Like
What
I'm
do
a
you think?
feminist for women's rights issues. No, I am for doing it for women's rights. I'm not going to discuss pornography with you unless it's about a women's rights issue and pornography. Which it was. If they were looking at some clip in the newsroom, And then this the shift in charge starts to yell at me and is like, how can you say this to XYZ? He's a bigger feminist than you are. And I'm like, why don't you guys just keep it to
What?
yourselves? And why are you asking me for an input when you already have a feminist input in this, apparently?
This is so
Yeah.
ridiculous. I hate it when men boast that we're feminists. Like, shut up. Like seriously.
Even if you were like, what a weird way of saying that. What a weird way of showing that you are.
This is so problematic. Did you report this person?
No, I didn't. I actually reported to the shift in charge, and the shift in charge was the one who started yelling at me and saying that, this guy is a bigger feminist than you are. So then where do you go? And I'm like fighting multiple battles at multiple fronts. The guy on top of this shift in charge was even another kind of hell, and he's just known through the media industry to be not a credible person anyway. So it was just really awful uh, there. And then, I mean, I guess in Islamabad, when I was working with men, I kept running into misogynists, whether they were from elite class or they were from middle class. um it was the same kind of misogyny, same kind of terrible behavior, unsupportive, shaista tarike se baithne wala, like, how are you
Yeah,
sitting?
Sama
That
Sama is
happened in
complicated.
some of the
Yeah.
most. I mean, that didn't the shaista thing didn't happen at Summer. It happened at the one of those supposedly more progressive newsrooms.
Okay. Wow, we can have a whole
I faced the
podcast on like
same.
newsroom misogyny.
Yes, we can. That would be. I have so much. There's this person in the newsroom that I worked with in Islamabad that would just target me.
What about the men you like? I was interested more in knowing the men you dated. I thought mindset ka koi fark hoega. Like maybe they were different kinds of people.
Nee, mindset. So that, like I said, I would only speak to people who share the same kind of ideas and same kind of mm, zest for life, I guess, or interest, similar interests. So obviously, I wasn't able to connect with somebody with a misogynistic mindset and somebody who would or a patriarchal one. So there was this person that I dated, who in Islamabad, who did seem to have a patriarchal mindset because he was very spoiled in that he was like, I'm used to my sisters do all of the things for me, or my mother also works. What do you mean, like, you can't manage work and house both? And I was like, no, you need to be pulling the weight, as my partner. And he was like, that's so strange. What do you mean? My mother also works. She does all the house chores. She's the one who cooks and gives me breakfast. And I'm like, you're 30 years old. But this is not something to show off, that your mom fries an egg for you and makes tea for you for breakfast. Like, this is bizarre. How can you just say that even as a grown up? So obviously that didn't work out. But that's and he I mean, I'm single obviously. But and I'm such a caring person also. At one point, he was like, oh, I couldn't imagine a feminist like this. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, feminism is something to improve the world. That is nothing. I mean, I don't know why that would make me a non-caring person. I am a very caring human being. That is why I am a feminist. If I weren't caring about other
Yeah,
people,
I
why would I be a
have a
feminist?
fundamental problem with that when men say, "Oh, you're too feminist," or "Oh, well, you're a feminazi." I threw a fit every single time when somebody told me that I was a feminazi because I think this word is a slur. I feel like when men say, "Oh, this," like you're narrating your story, if a man says, "Oh, I couldn't imagine living with a feminist like that," that's a slur. You're converting a movement that has advocated for equal rights for women into a slur, into a smear campaign, to be honest.
And also people who killed others over prejudice.
Yeah.
How can you relate us to them?
Yeah, and I mean,
We're not fighting any wars. We're not killing people. We're not committing genocide.
we're
What's
not
like,
violent.
how? How does that
We're
exactly?
not when to say feminazi, this is such a problematic thing to say to a woman because, like, Nazis carried out a Holocaust. They killed 6 million people and then 3
Yeah,
million other
yeah.
Roma, Sintis, and homosexuals. How can you call me a feminazi? What does it mean to say, oh, you're too feminist? What does that mean? And that's literally,
What is a too
it
feminist?
literally just means,
Like I'm making you uncomfortable.
yeah, this is the
You were
sign
getting
of a
away with
man who's not
you were
secure.
getting, yeah, I mean the man is getting away with some comfort, like he has some comforts that now he has to give up to pull his weight, is when I am too feminist. And I'm like, you're just a lazy bum. You're not all that you put yourself
No,
out to be.
absolutely. You're
You want to be the
basically
man of the house, then be the man of the house and pull your weight.
you're basically
You
questioning
not
you're questioning
exactly.
their privileges in a very highly patriarchal society that has given them a free pass for decades and decades and decades, and they've seen it with their grandfathers, with their fathers, with their colleagues, with their uncles, brothers, friends, and now you're challenging that, and that makes you too feminist, you know? And that makes them very uncomfortable. So if a man tells you that you're too
On the other hand,
feminist,
they're not the one who are not caring enough for me. That's what I feel like. You're not care. You don't love your partner. If you are not feminist, you would be doing the things so that she doesn't feel burdened and burnt out.
to be honest, I feel like the thing about men not doing enough to contribute in the household and women having to do it all is more about care than gender roles for me. If I really love my partner, I would do everything for them, but it can't be my job, you
Yes,
know?
even after coming from work, like women are working and they have to take care of home. So I mean, men are the real gold diggers.
That's true. Actually, that's true. I read a
They
study.
are the real, like, I'm doing this and I'm doing this and I'm doing this. What are you doing? Just going to work and coming home to a clean house with your clothes all ready for the next morning, and your bed is, you have clean sheets on your bed. You have fresh warm
You know,
dinner.
this will
Your kids are taken
this
care
will
of.
blow your mind.
So,
I actually had a situation when I was 22, 23. A family member, a man, he found a man for me. Okay. I did not ask for this, completely unprovoked social service. They did this social service for me and they were like, what kind of a man do you want? And I was like, I don't want a man. Like, why are you calling me? Like, why are you doing this? I did not ask for a man. I did not ask for a partner. And what makes it okay that you
yeah,
think you can call me in the middle of the night and like have this cozy conversation with me like an elder brother who wants his little sister to get married, right?
yeah.
Anyway, I was 22. I was definitely very, very savvy, but I was not as savvy as I am now, right? I was much younger. And he said stuff to me like, oh, well, I think you're old enough to get married and it's your age. And we found this man. And I was like, okay, well, what does this man do? Nada. No promising answer. Nothing like, okay, well, he was Forbes 30 under 30, or this man set up a company and he's so great and he's such an intellect. Nothing. Nothing. This man, the family is really great. His brother is my best friend, and they will have no problem with you working. And my sister had recently had a divorce, and then he also said to me, and by the way, they have no problem that your sister had a divorce. And I'm like, this is your introduction and your pitch for a man you want me to marry. Like, you've just basically recounted 5 or 6 things that are supposedly wrong with me, and they are so angelic. This family is so great that they have
Yes.
no
So
problem. So
generous.
generous.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
was so mad. And then he
this virtue
exactly. And
signaling
then he
left
was
and
like, okay,
right.
well, what kind of a man do you want? I was like, a man who can cook for himself, clean, iron his own clothes, make his own bed. And then his knee jerk reaction and his wife's knee jerk reaction was, and women are often involved, by the way, in this whole debauchery. Her reaction was, अब उससे सारे काम खुद ही करने तो तुम शादी क्यों कर रहा है? Which basically in English means if he has to do everything by himself, why is he marrying you? And I'm like, he's marrying me. He's not hiring a maid.
Like, why am I marrying him? I don't need more work. I already work.
Yeah, I already
I
used to
don't need.
work.
Why am I marrying
I was a
him?
student.
Right?
I was a student and I used to work. I've been working since I'm 16, before even the legal age, right? And then I hung up this phone call and I googled, why do men marry? This is it. I
Oh,
googled, why do men marry? And then there was a torrent of
yeah.
articles. Men marry because it's economically beneficial, because they can have one person to cook, to clean, to have babies with, to raise their children, and to have a social cover. Because marriage has social credit,
Social
right?
cover.
Like if
There you
you're
go.
married versus if you're single. Okay, I want like rapid answers. Really rapid answers.
Okay. All right.
So
I like it.
yeah, not like 5 lines, but maybe 4 or 5 words. What do you think are 3 personality traits women in Pakistan need if they want to live alone?
They have to have self-belief and they have to be passionate. They need to know the why of why they're doing it. Personality trait, I would say resourceful. I don't know if that's a personality trait or not, but you kind of have to think on your feet, like be in a solution mode.
Problem solver.
How can I fix this situation? Yeah, there you go. Go getter, problem solver, stubborn.
What are some of the slurs that women get told when they live alone, like you're too feminist?
Uh, I don't know about the slurs exactly. I mean, the words that you get told, but you do get some hidden connotations behind sentences like, uh, "You live alone. That must be so scary. Aren't you scared of living alone? How can you live alone? Yeah, the society is really terrible, and just things outside are so bad." Which is kind of them trying to say that there's only sex work going on outside. Somebody who lives alone is doing sex work, so this kind of a connotation is connected to that. So these are some things that I was repeatedly, and I still keep hearing those. Sorry, I just very quickly, that these kind of things that you hear, they make you anxious. So, and because they go on repeat. So you have to be really courageous and remind yourself that you are safe and it is okay to live alone. You are not a characterless person, and you're fine, and this people are just not used to this idea of women living alone in Pakistan. So you guys kind of have to repeat those things to yourself because it can make you very anxious very quickly.
How do men who are potential dates or potential suitors perceive you when you're a woman living alone in Pakistan?
The men I've dated, they always, their first question is, how are you, or what is your name? Or I mean, I haven't dated them, but they would be very much willing to come to my place. They're like, "Oh, you live alone? Can I come over?" That's the second thing they would say. And sometimes when you are giving somebody a chance, so this would be like the fifth or the sixth thing they would say after gaining your trust. "Can I come over?" And you're like, no, we live in Pakistan and I don't trust you enough right now. You cannot come over.
Wow. So they have just one goal.
Yeah, they have just one goal. They think you're a feminist and you living alone. That's somebody they can have sex with. That's all. That's all that we are doing.
I feel like feminism is a pretty good deal for most men. I would say they underestimate it. I mean, men are actually reaping the benefits of feminism. And then they complain why women are feminists.
Yeah.
Because a woman who's a feminist and a woman who's economically, financially independent will make her own money. She is not dependent on you. She will also spend it on you. She will also do the housework because more women are more independent in terms of housework. even if they are
Yeah.
even if they are the kind of women who want men to pull their weight, they can already take care of themselves. A woman knows how to boil an egg, how to
Yeah.
make her own tea, how to make her own bed, how to wash her clothes, just because they know the skills that are needed and necessary to get you through life. So I feel like men are getting a pretty good deal. So I don't know what's all the drama about, like, why are you this Aurat March person, and like, why are you one of those women who are protesting for your rights?
I find it so ironic and very, actually, it actually infuriates me also, is that when men complain that they are the only one who are the breadwinners, but at the same time they don't allow their women to work. They're like, no, why wives don't work, it's not right. And I'm like, then don't complain here sitting about, don't sit here and complain about inflation and how much burdened you are when you're not letting your wife work. You're not encouraging her to work. Tell her to work, pull her weight.
Support her. Like, I think and I think this
Support her, or at least is like, I don't know, even convince her. Maybe if some women don't want to work,
huh, like, of course.
or they want to
but
demand.
but
So there are those, but still, like, come on,
but
it's just most of them
it's
are,
interesting.
the one that I've come across have been like that.
I know a lot of
Wouldn't let you work,
I know
and
a lot of women who don't want to work, and I feel like And I feel like I know a lot of women who want to work, they just don't have the right kind of support. And I think the right kind of support can
Yeah,
change your
those are
life.
there. They're there. Change his life also, right? So then this is what feels more hypocritical.
No,
Like
absolutely.
you cannot sit here and cry about your expenses when you are not encouraging your wife to use her
Brain and her
bachelor's
intelligence to
degree.
actually better your life. Absolutely. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
You want an educated wife, but you don't want her
this
to
is like
work for some
this
reason.
whole thing about in desi society is about हमें लंबी गोरी डॉक्टर बहू चाहिए but वो काम नहीं करेगी. We want a
Hmm.
tall,
रोटी पकाएगी वो
fair,
बस.
light-skinned doctor, daughter-in-law, but she's just gonna make like gold rotis.
Yeah.
No, no, I completely agree. I completely agree with that. काफी sad state of affairs है दुनिया में. But this was so fun. We should meet when I come to Karachi.
Yeah, I would definitely encourage women to live alone and try it and make it the norm, so that just like bike riding, when I did, it was this unheard thing of, but now people are talking about it. Women are riding bikes. They're not coming out in huge numbers, but you do see it a little more common than it was a year before. So like I feel like I know I have some many horror stories, but also many fun ones is of living alone in Pakistan. It can be done, and
Yeah, I
yeah,
think
just
everybody needs
I
to live
think
alone for a
it's
little bit.
more people need to do it. Yep,
I mean, as opposed to getting
both men and
getting
women.
into a relationship, living with a partner directly from your parents' house, I think that should change. That norm needs to change. I think both men and women need to live alone
Yes,
because it adds a
yes,
certain degree of
definitely.
certain degree of independence to your character, I think, in a good way.
Confidence. There's confidence. There's skills that you gain.
Yep.
It's actually very
Okay,
important like that. So yeah.
perfect. Thank you for speaking with me, by the way.